wait. The bar's got that swing. Glasses clink, hear the ice cubes sing. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worry slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. There's Troy laughing with his gin and a grin, telling stories about where he's been. Boomer's got whiskey, he's loosening his tie. Chasing dreams under a midday sky. The bartender knows us, he's mixing with flair. Every sip's a moment we're happy to share. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worry slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. Sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worry slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
Salute, cheers, and slancha. Welcome, welcome. Good to see all of you. Big Al says, cheers, my friends. Have a great show. Hope everyone is having a great day. I hope you are also having a great day. Big Al of Big Al Presents. ussarn says, hi, and I hope you're having a nice day. Likewise, ussarn, so glad you're here. Of course, Netters Network says hello to the love of her life. That's me. And she says, like, share, subscribe, and become a member. Yes, please, if you haven't already, do all those things. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. It encourages the heck out of me and makes it possible for me to continue to do what I do here. That is assuming that you enjoy what I do. And yes, it's good to have you back, Enigma Severus. I am so glad that you are here. Welcome, welcome. And Jonathan Conroy, of course, dittoing what Netter said. Smash the like button and enjoy the show. I hope you absolutely do. Connie Cleary, hail to you as well. Good to see you here. Let's see. And there's Mark Melnikoff, Mechpo, watching trains at one of the busiest crossing places in Illinois, Dalton. There you go. Good. Well, I am glad you are doing what you enjoy. I know you are a huge train enthusiast, as one could probably tell by the icon that you have showing there. So today is Tuesday. It is Tuesday Talk, and that talk is yours. Would be interested to hear what you would like to talk about. A lot of interesting things going on, of course. I don't want to get political if I can avoid it. That doesn't tend to go well with the Al Gore rhythms on this platform. But there are multiple platforms here. We are also going out under the Green Machine and under X. You could be watching me at any one of those places. What's up, Pacelli? What's up, Nate? Good to see you, my friend. So I hear that Megan 2.0 is not doing so well. I have not seen the first movie, although I am very, very interested in that movie. I would love to see a Megan license go to the E.G.O toy company, because I do have their Chucky doll. I would love to get Megan in the same scale. That would be pretty cool, I think. Let's see. Oh, yes. Netter notes that the first Tuesday of the month, so the air raid sirens went off at 10 a.m. Yes, 2 hours ago, we had air raid sirens going off. I gotta admit, even though I know that they're coming every Tuesday morning, there's still that ominous feeling when you hear the air raid siren. I mean, I'm sure that's intentional. So we will be watching for Big Al Presents review on it later today. He's already seen it, and I can't wait to hear what he thinks about it. Like I said, from what I'm hearing, it didn't have a great opening weekend, so I will be interested to hear the reviews. It's fun. Storyline issues, sure, but still fun, and there is some good redemption. That is interesting. I do get a little concerned about sequels from horror films. You get a good first story, and then they tend to meander after that. That's usually been my experience. The longer a horror franchise tends to go, the more it just becomes confusing mess. You know, I saw that happen with Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween especially. Halloween became a choose your own adventure. Hellraiser especially, because most of those films in the middle weren't even really Hellraiser films. They were literally Hellraiser in name only. They were other horror movies that they inserted the Cenobite characters into so that they could make use of the Hellraiser name. So literally Hellraiser in name only. So Connie agrees with you. Good. Yeah, and I especially think that it's important that we get more movies that not only are entertaining and well written, that's probably the most important, but they've got to keep the budget low. And historically, horror films are lower budget. It does become more sci-fi than horror in the sequel. You know what else? What other franchise had a tendency to do that was Alien. Alien started out as a truly horror film. It was a ghost story in space. It was that encapsulated, you can't get out, kind of thing, being hunted by the monster, hunted by the creature. After that, it became much more science fiction. Yes, it was still a Terminator style, action adventure, bordering on horror film, but it was they leaned more into the science fiction, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I do like the idea of once the horror can't be maintained, right? Things, those primal feelings, right? Whether it's lust or fear or hunger, can only last so long. They have to be satiated and then they're dissipated. And then they have to rebuild. And particularly with horror, you tend to lose that edge. You can retell the same story, but now it's not as scary as it was the first time. And you can build the stakes, but then you start to go, yeah. So I do have an appreciation for a horror series that evolves as it goes. From what I hear, Megan 2.0 is not even a horror movie. Yeah, it's a sci-fi girl boss action movie, according to my nephew. Well, that's interesting because I did see a video title go by. I've got it queued up to watch later. Midnight's Edge was saying something to that regard, and I didn't know if they were saying that the film really was a girl boss type of story, or if it was being marketed that way, which is just as bad. It's going to do poorly if there is a perception of that. There have been a number of, and even Midnight's Edge themselves did a video about this, talking about how otherwise really good films with female leads are coming out that people are eschewing, believing them to be girl boss films, even though they turn out not to be. And that is a marketing failure. I think the marketing is trying to play into the audience that wants a girl boss, not realizing that in so doing they're keeping everyone else away. It's like the worst of both worlds. I knew who is behind the situation before the halfway point. Kind of predictable. Okay, so the story, there's something in the story that's a very predictable thing. I don't always think that's a bad thing. I think we've put too much emphasis on having to have, especially after The Sixth Sense, they want everything to have a twist ending. It's got to have such a twist. And no, sometimes, if the clues are laid out and an audience is able to predict the ending, or what's going on, or whatever it is, then, good on them. That was something that, George Martin said about the whole storyline with Hodor. No, there was two different things. Hodor and the rebirth of Jon Snow. Both things were predicted in advance by the audience, and he considered, should I change it? And the more he thought about it, the more he said, no, I planned this out. I laid the breadcrumbs. If clever, audiences are able to, follow those crumbs to their logical conclusion, then, good on them. They won. They kind of spoiled it for themselves, but that's part of the fun. So I think there's nothing wrong with it. Unless, of course, what you're saying is they hit you over the head with it. There was no thought involved. It was so obvious, in which case there's no good build up there. That's not good storytelling either. Yeah, I got to watch out for the self-inserts. This is something that I was talking about last week, the whole idea of the self-insert. In theory, a writer is when they're creating a story, every character is a self-insert. Every character is some element of your own personality. But you also have to be mindful of the storytelling process so that it doesn't become all wish fulfillment, where the main character is all powerful, can do no wrong, blah, 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 blah. That's great for daydreaming. That's not good for gripping storytelling. You want there to be challenges to overcome. You want there to be character growth. And if you're already perfect, there's nowhere to go. There's no growth to be had. When you think about it, Terminator was a horror movie. I was actually thinking of saying that too, Nate. I did pivot more towards Alien, but the same is absolutely true with the Terminator. It's a horror movie in a way, how is the Terminator significantly different as far as a villain goes from like Michael Myers or Jacen. The difference is the previous ones are assumed to be supernatural, or if not, well, maybe not in the first. Well, let's face it. In first movie, it wasn't even Jacen. Jacen isn't even really a character. He's a MacGuffin, really. I hate to spoil a 40-year-old movie here, 40-plus-year-old movie, but it was Jacen's mother who was the murderer, and not a supernatural murderer at that. She was just a serial killer, Michael Myers is assumed to be a serial killer. We don't even have the idea that he might be in any way supernatural until the end. But there's really nothing implicit in the ending of that first movie to imply that he really is supernatural. And again, because Halloween is so multiple choice, there could be a supernatural cult involved. There could be, he could be a supernatural demon-possessed, kind of creature, or he is, just a serial killer who gets old and, needs someone else to take on the mantle for him. Jacen, on the other hand, clearly is a supernatural revenant character who can be killed and brought back and, is nearly immortal and so forth. Terminator is just a technological version of the same thing, an unstoppable machine. But again, that does lend itself to an evolution of the character where you could have another villain character, but then you end up with a hero character that was the villain, but, reprogrammed. Speaking of the girl boss mentality with movies, Gunpowder Milkshake is the prime example of a horribly dumb girl boss writing. I've heard about that. I haven't seen it. Hollywood needs to stop thinking they are as smart as true writers. Yeah. They think they're smarter than they actually... I don't care how smart you think you are, and I don't care how many accolades you get. You actually have to earn it. You actually have to earn it. Are they air raid sirens or tornado sirens? They're emergency sirens that can be used for either thing. I know that extended siren as opposed to pulses and stuff like that have different meanings and whatnot, but the point is they're just testing out the emergency systems every Tuesday at 10 a.m. So technically they're neither. If character is written well enough, an audience can predict how they will react in a situation. That's why I say Picard from the series Picard is not Picard. Well, he's definitely not after he dies, right? And they bring him back as an android. He's definitely not Picard any longer. He's Picard 2.0, I guess. The only true girl boss are Klingon women, and they are nothing like... there is nothing like reading love poetry while they hurl heavy objects at you. That is absolutely true. Yes, just the first Tuesday of every month. That's right. You're absolutely right. It's not every Tuesday. It's just that time tends to run together more and more quickly when you as you get older. Those of you that are older in the chat might realize this, that a week seemed to take forever when you were a kid. Now months just go by in the blink of an eye, and it's like, oh my God, half the year's already gone. It's just amazing. Oh my God, Gunpowder Milkshake was a really bad knockoff of a female John Wick story. On the other hand, I have heard that Ballerina was actually a good literal spin-off from John Wick that didn't do well for exactly the reason that I was expressing, that because they are perceiving it to be a girl boss movie, people are not showing up to it, and that really is sad, right? There is a plus and a minus to association, right? So if you are doing, if Jaws is really popular and then you go out and you do Piranha or The Deep or whatever, people are going to go seeing it hoping that it will have some of that Jaws energy. But if Jaws had been like a horrible movie in the first place, then anyone else who tried to do one of those types of movies, even if it was better than Jaws, people would be like, I saw Jaws. I have no interest in seeing any of these other rip-offs of it. They took all the things from John Wick and made it horrible. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, and people forget that it's not just about, well, I mean, there's a bunch of elements that made it possible. People like Keanu Reeves, that he really was a draw to the movie, right? The action and choreography is really good. And you can't undermine that. The story is good, but the core story, at least for the first movie, I've only seen the first John Wick movie, that core story about his loss and the dog and all of that, people joke, well, never mess with John Wick's dog. It's more than just a dog, and a dog in and of itself is a good enough thing, but how he got that dog and what that dog represented to him, you unleashed something really serious there, Ballerina was, now again, I gotta say, I haven't seen Ballerina, just seen some of your some of the community's reviews of it. I do want to see it. I just need to get caught up on John Wick first. Ballerina was a really good one because the girl gets her butt kicked all the time. Rarely does she ever have the upper hand, and her decisions are still limited by lack of wisdom. Still, it was good. I love that lack of wisdom part, because that gives you room to grow the character. You should see her gain wisdom, probably within the span of the movie, but definitely as you go into sequels and so forth, you should see her get better and better. And if by the end she becomes some kind of a girl boss, it is earned. But by that point, she should be turning and maybe mentoring someone else coming up behind her. Just my thought. Maybe that's not appropriate given what the overall storyline is. We're not really talking about hero characters, so to speak, but I'm just expressing a generic formula that may or may not work really well with this specific story. But yeah. What was I gonna? I have gotten a good amount of feedback from a number of you about the format of Liquid Lunch, and it's been mostly, almost exclusively in the positive of, I'm glad you're doing a 1 hour stream and you're keeping it very truncated. I do feel like there are a lot of streams that tend to go on and on and on, and when you have so many other YouTube channels you want to follow, that can end up being a challenge. So I am going to focus more on definitely not going in over an hour, probably trying to rein it in, try to get closer to that 50 minute mark. Wait a minute. I'm getting ahead of the chat here. I just realized I was 6 minutes behind live, but I fixed it. Did you fix it by putting me on chipmunk mode, or did you just skip over 6 minutes and just go live? I've done it both ways. It's like, I'll just get to where he's at now. It's not what you did, my son, but who you did it to. Fair enough. Fair enough. Ah, Maryland. Yes, yes, yes. I got a complaint on Liquid Lunch. My complimentary bottle of Jack has not arrived in the mail yet. What the flip? Well, that's an interesting comment because I have recently, well, not recently, I've known for a while now that depending on what state you're in, sending alcohol through the mail can be a challenge. I want to say about 8 years ago or so, I had bought from, I think it was Star Trek Wines. It might have been a precursor to Star Trek Wines. Whoever had the license at the time for Star Trek booze put out a limited edition Klingon blood wine, and I wanted to order a couple bottles, but they wouldn't deliver to Illinois. So I literally had to, and I made the joke, I had to have it sent to a friend of mine to smuggle across the neutral zone to me. So I literally had to have it shipped to a friend in Wisconsin, and then I met up with him and picked it up and brought it home. That was the only way that I could get it. So that is always a concern. Now, that issue has been resolved. Star Trek Wines has had no problem. I have gotten Canar, I have gotten Romulan Ale. I still need to do a taste test on the Romulan Ale. There's 2 different styles of Romulan Ale, and I want to give them both a try and talk about that. That will be coming eventually on a Star Trek themed last call is what I'll probably be doing one of these days. I'm not in on the lingo here. I'm just bugging my Godos. Okay? Yeah, I'm not good with the lingo. I'm not very hip, in case you haven't been able to tell. Skip to 6 minutes. You were talking bullshit anyway. Who cares? Just skip over it. I used to live in Washington, D.C. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. And there's only 2 post offices where you can mail alcohol from because the post office has a liquor license. Don't even get me started. As a libertarian, this whole idea of licensure just upsets the heck out of me. We call ourselves the land of the free if you pay for a license so it can be regulated. I'm not sure how free that is. Pertaining to sending alcohol in the mail, a man accidentally knocked on our door delivering alcohol, and I had to redirect him to the right house. It was intriguing. You could order alcohol. I'm in Georgia. Yeah, I don't know what the liquor laws are in Georgia for that kind of thing. My bigger concern would be again, regarding alcohol and minors, right? You know, you're not supposed to be able, depending on the state, you're not supposed to be able to get alcohol if you're under 18, under 21, again, depending on the state. So, you know, here you go, kid. Here's a shipment of booze that your family isn't expecting, so you could totally get away with, you know, them not knowing about. So, sometimes not very free. I'd say most of the time not very free. I would argue, yeah, absolutely not. We are in the land of the regulated and the home of the taxed. Absolutely true. Speaking of taxes, not that these are paid spots, but just so that I can promote everything that we're doing on the channel, I'm going to move to station identification and the week's promos, and I'll be back in 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
You are watching Liquid Lunch, streaming every weekday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let's sip together. This week on Live from Sparkwood and 21, we'll be taking a drive down David Lynch's Lost Highway. Link to the off-platform live feed of the feature will be provided in the commentary stream chat. Join us this Tuesday at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern on Deleted Scenes and Affiliates.
With the chance of ever returning to Auron gone, Callie is feeling alone and vulnerable. Then, an alien life force reaches out to her mind from its tomb in space. It's Sarcophagus. This Tuesday on Last Call presents Blake 7 at 10 p.m. Central, 11 Eastern.
It's Thursday night, and Netters Network talks to the streamers who have everybody talking. It's Thursday Things, Thursdays at 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Netters Network.
This week on Saturday Night at the Movies, Dan Aykroyd is making the world safe for insanity. It's Dr. Detroit on Netters Network, Saturday at 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
Every Sunday evening, Aged Boomer and Papa Pacelli bring you the rundown of the week's geek news, or at least what they think is interesting. You may have heard about it somewhere else, but Boomer and Pacelli put a spin on it you likely won't hear anywhere else. It's Geeky Geezers, every Sunday evening at 8 Central, 9 Eastern.
We now return to our liquid lunch.
And Netter wanted me to show off my brand new Last Call plaque that she got for me. It's a bit larger, and it replaces the smaller, previously branded Friday Night Last Call. This logo came when I was really only doing the one Friday night a week, but the title Friday Night Last Call got to be kind of a mouthful, and now that I'm kind of doing something almost every day, I just decided let's simplify it. We'll go to Last Call, and that's it. That is the brand, just something really simple, and yeah. So I went with the larger sign, and I think it looks really sharp. And of course, Netter encourages me by getting that for me. When I was managing a liquor store in D.C., across from my store was a Chinese carryout that was doing good business because the delivery guy will come off the liquor store and buy alcohol for minors. Well, there you go. You were ordering Chinese food. Eventually, who were ordering Chinese food. He eventually got caught, and the Chinese restaurant went out of business. That's too bad. That is too bad. Yep. Exactly right. Oh, that's right. This Friday, a bunch of us are going to be over on Big Al Presents for 1776 in celebration of Independence Day. That is a classic film, and one we've done before, but absolutely one that is worth watching over and over and over again. Especially now, I think we need to remember the roots of our nation. And I think in many ways, I think we're struggling to get back to some of those roots, to be honest with you. There was a great deal of value back in the 70s to the educational programming we got on Saturdays. The Schoolhouse Rock, for example, that explained how a bill becomes a law and how the government is a three-ring circus, and so many other elements of history and civics that I think we've got at least one, maybe two generations that have completely lost all of that and don't understand at all. I would like to say that the speech in the Independence Day is still one of the best speeches that is patriotic. Yeah, Yep. I mean, we talked about it the last time we did a watch party of it about the about how it's not really terribly historical, but even some elements of the mini series, John Adams had some elements of it that weren't purely historically accurate, but the spirit still was. I think you still have to. Here Pacelli, there Pacelli, everywhere Pacelli Ali. There you go. Fair enough. Yeah, one movie that I haven't seen in a long time that would probably make me cringe would probably be The Patriot, because although I remember that being a very good and very exciting adventure film, the history of what it's telling is so off. It tends to set my teeth on edge. Kind of feel the same way about Braveheart too. Great story, but when you start using historical characters to tell such a story, maybe you should have made a more fictionalized, fantasy story rather than trying to use historical characters. Greetings, longest running superhero RPG. It's good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Let's see. What else is going on? I'm going to check out my regular source for current events, at least pop cultural current events, just to see what's going on. Wow, even Walt Disney World is scaling back Pride merchandise. Wow, when Disney starts to pull back, that tells you a lot. Nobody liked Ironheart. I saw some news go by. We're going to watch it unfold this week and probably talk about it on Sunday for Geeky Geezers. Looks like the Paramount deal might be close to closing, so that we may have firm word on that by Thursday. So kind of looking forward to that. Been kind of really watching that one. Maybe Friday should be the last call, and just title your afternoon shows Liquid Lunch. What's Troy Pacelli? Well, I mean that is what I'm doing. Last call is last call. That's Friday, and Liquid Lunch is Liquid Lunch. Every afternoon. But it all falls under the brand name of Last Call. So like even tonight when we watch Blake 7, I mean, I don't get really specific about the branding, but if you pay close attention to the thumbnail, it's Last Call presents Blake 7. But if they needed a love interest for William Wallace, the Queen wasn't 8 years old at the time. No. Oh, yeah. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Braveheart has been one of the most historically inaccurate movies I've seen. That it has only been topped by BBC's Black Anne Boleyn. Yeah, right? Exactly. Even I am not watching Ironheart. That should tell you something. Yeah, I only watched it specifically because I was asked to be on Pop Culture Breakdown, and it was literally my homework. And then I get there only to find out that I was the overachiever that watched all 3 episodes, and most of at least half the panel hadn't. Even Doomcock himself said he couldn't get past the first 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I'll take you through the rest of it. And we really kind of ripped that film apart. I think my biggest problem with it, first, they try to say, well, we followed the comic books. We followed the source material. All you comic book fans said, we got to follow the source material. We followed the source material. You chose the wrong source material. You chose a run of comics, the all new, all different Marvel, that nobody liked, and nobody bought those comics. Why do you think people would like the TV series more, than the comic book? You're idiots. You've got over 60 years of good stories, and you chose the worst selling ones. That's absolutely friggin' ridiculous. They're trying to justify the female Silver Surfer the same way. Well, in this alternate universe, brief time for a couple issues, this particular I don't care. That's not Silver Surfer. That's whatever. But the other thing, too, is I think the more egregious problem is that they, again, like we were talking about earlier with people who don't know how to tell stories, they don't even understand the difference between a hero and a villain. And they're telling a great story if they want to tell the story of a villain character. She literally steals everything. She steals the technology. She steals, she actually gets involved with criminals in order to steal, to make money, in order to buy, more technology and stuff. They play her off like she's a great genius. I'm sorry. You're not a genius if you have to steal somebody else's technology and retro, what do they call it? Re-engineer it or whatever, or, figure out how it works. But, there's a certain country that does that, right? They don't invent their own stuff. They steal from others, and then they make cheap knockoffs of it. That's what this character is doing. That is theft. That is theft. And we've already established that Tony... What was that line that Obadiah Stane says in the first movie? Why can't we figure this out? Tony Stark made this armor in a cave using scraps, right? So why does she have to steal in order to get this technology and that technology? Why can't she do what Tony did? She's obviously not as intelligent. Anyway, didn't want to get off on that one. You chose the wrong source material. Amen. Yeah. I know Star Treks are historically inaccurate too. There is no way they have discovered those weird planets. They aren't in my science books. Well, it's future history, right? You gotta wait and see what happens. It is funny that you say that, though, because that has been the justification in Picard and Strange New Worlds and all these other things, where they're retroactively changing the history of Star Trek because they're trying to make it match up with the real world. And it's like, no, stop it. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this is supposed to work. It's like the MCU song Batwoman and the CW's Robin Hood, and said, "Hold my beer. It is so bad. I'd rather watch the Inhumans than Ironheart." Yeah, I wasn't too interested in Ironheart. I mean, I wasn't too interested in the Inhumans either. Sounds like she should team up with Michael Keaton's Vulture. Yeah, there you go. Reverse engineer. That's what I was trying to say. All reverse engineer is theft. It's copying. You're literally copying somebody else's intellectual property. I couldn't figure it out, so I'm just going to duplicate what you did. I'm going to copy off of your paper. That's what it is. Unless Doomcock wants me to come back and do a rundown of those last 3 episodes, I almost certainly will not be watching the rest of that show because I just don't care. I really just don't care. I also don't particularly like the Patriot and Braveheart, more so the latter. Yeah, no, I agree with you, and welcome, by the way, Matthew Flynn, the Gladiator of Kaon. We all know it's Tony Stark female replacement, and just like Bond, the producers are going to back down and cancel the show when it is rejected. Well, they're not going to have a choice, right? It's really hard to justify if nobody's watching it that you just keep playing it. It's like running a projector in an empty theater. For me, one reason Trek diverges is Q and those like him. They could drastically alter all sorts of things, so our world isn't like theirs. Yeah, it's interesting because I was just watching a very interesting video from a while back. There's a number of really good YouTube channels that try to break down Star Trek lore, and sometimes try to make this stupid stuff try to make sense. But pointed out that even within the main canon of Star Trek, there are events that you have to suspect are changing future history going forward. So you get to the episode Q Who, where Q takes the Enterprise and bats them into the Delta Quadrant, where they encounter the Borg for the first time, basically telling them you're not ready for what's out. It's a continuation of what Q did in Encounter at Farpoint. You're not ready for what's out here. Look at this. And retroactively, you start to realize Q is actually doing them a favor by saying, if you don't get ready, you'll be wiped out by the Borg. So look at this, deal with this, and now go tell everyone about this. And so it's after Q Who that you start seeing people like Selby, starting to work on a task force, preparing for the Borg. After Wolf 359, when the Borg finally arrive, and they might not have arrived when they did if Q hadn't sent them out there, and the Borg go, oh, Earth, let's go there now. After that, they stop having families on board ships. They start getting more militaristic, start punching up their weapon technology, and start going for a more military stance. So there's got to be an assumption that if Q had not gotten involved, there is a timeline where Q Who doesn't happen. We don't encounter the Borg until much, much later. It all continues, happy, skip through the tulips with families on board and everything. The Borg show up and then just kind of wipe out the entire Alpha Quadrant at some point in the future. But my point being that is a divergent timeline that occurs because of Q. It's just we happen to follow the one that takes off after Q Who. And I'm sure there's many, many like that. We also know that the whole situation with what was the one with the USS Britain, where Captain Fraser Crane keeps coming through a time loop and crashing into the Enterprise. That history was altered there as well. So we now have a timeline where there's a crew from the movie era that exists in the present. The episode where the Enterprise C comes through a time vortex, and Natasha Yar from an alternate timeline goes back and tries to help them defend Narendra 3. Slight alteration in the timeline so that Sela exists. So this whole timeline that we're watching in Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Sela exists, is technically an alternate timeline. The biggest problem with the MCU is that they're all connected, and they keep highlighting these characters that no one liked in the comics. Now they're going to be stuck with these characters. That's actually a valid point. I always thought it was stupid to have families on board Starship. Space exploration is dangerous. You should not be bringing civilians along. Yes, but keep in mind that even in this world, you have people that are operating in a fantasy, right? They believe in things that aren't absolute, that are on a spectrum. They believe and live in a world as they want it to be, not the way it really is. And then they have to deal with harsh realities. That's kind of what happened to the world of the Federation, right? They're like, well, we're now in a peace accord with the Klingons. The Romulans aren't an issue anymore. Even if they were, we're on a pretty even keel with them, and our technology is about equal with theirs. And they start to become complacent. So they're like, we could have longer extended missions if we had these, traveling star bases, which is what basically a Galaxy class ship is. And, officers that have families, well, you can take your family along with them. And it can be very educational for the kids, too. And it'll all be wonderful. And then, holy crap, the Borg. Okay, yeah, maybe this isn't such a good idea. And maybe these long extended missions, maybe not such a good idea. Maybe you go out, you check the perimeters, you come back, And maybe only the people that are single and young, we go out on a 5-year mission, push the boundaries and come back. Maybe get back to the way we used to do things. Maybe there was a reason for that. It's not on a sliding time scale like the Marvel Universe. Exactly. It's not supposed to be. We're following one specific timeline. And it branches, and we know at what points it branches, but we continue to follow one branch. If I recall correctly, there is an episode of Star Trek Enterprise where they find some Borg left over from the first contact. Yes, it was an episode of Enterprise. And they transmit a signal suggesting the Borg were on their way already when Q did them a favor. Yeah. But there is enough ambiguity as to, is that a ontological paradox? Did that storyline that we see in First Contact and Enterprise, which are directly related to each other, had that already happened, which led to, the Enterprise D that we saw, and then Q, and then Q who? Maybe. Welcome, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Good to see you. Boss said I can't have a liquid lunch, but I got leftover smoked St. Louis style spare ribs. I smoked for 7 hours. That has slap your mama seasoning and Rufus Teague's smoky apple barbecue sauce. That sounds yummy. Actually, I'm kind of getting hungry now. At work, drive by, like, and share. Do the same. Yes. Thank you so much. Beaches, because it's summertime. There you go. Thank you, Joe's Atmosphere. And I think with that, we'll start wrapping up this liquid lunch so that I can actually go get myself something to eat and get ready for tonight. Tonight, of course, live from Sparkwood and 21, we will be rewatching Lost Highway, a film I'm not as well versed in as I am with Mulholland Drive, but we will do our best. And then next week we will do our deep dive. I think that's a good format. Watch the movie one week, deep dive the following week, followed by Last Call presents Blake 7. The episode is Sarcophagus. You saw that in the promo. Did the people of Star Trek not learn from the family mistakes of Star Wars? 1 minute you're in love, the next you're missing legs, burned alive, wearing leather. Yeah, there you go. Interesting vid the other day suggesting Trek isn't what we think it is. The YouTuber gets a lot wrong, but even Blind Squirrels Gets Nuts applies. Many interesting points raised. Okay, there you go. Try to find me a link. Yeah, just if you get a chance, DM that to me. I'll definitely check it out if I haven't seen it already, because I've seen some videos like that before. They're effing delicious. Yeah, I can just imagine. You described them just well enough. Almost forgot about this as I was knee deep on a look into Apple in China. Well, you can always rewind and, you can compress a 1 hour video into a half hour. And JPRPH1 dropping the membership emojis. Thank you so much, my friends. Well, that has been our liquid lunch for today. I hope you all have enjoyed. I love hanging out and talking with you guys. And I'm going to go get ready for tonight's stream. You guys, I hope to see you there. Take care. Salute. Oh, thank you so much, Nate. $2 super chat. Cheers, but I'm sipping on a Dr. Bob. Well, there you go, my friend. You guys take care. Have a great one, and hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Hope to see you again real soon.